Good morning, dolls, and welcome to Little Gretchen's workshop. So today I want to share with you some things I did with some lovely miniatures. Some I made, some I received as gifts, and some are mass produced and just need some enhancing. Now this little wooden cigar box I made at least 2 years ago, and I recently received these wonderful cigars from my friend Lana at Panache Luxury, and they fit in the little cigar box perfectly, like the box was made for the cigars. And putting them together just made a perfect pairing. It was like I made the box just for these cigars. And I think it makes both of them look more authentic. And although there's no smoking in any of the dollhouses, I still think the cigars in the box is cute. When I was a little girl, one of my great uncles used to smoke cigars. So in memory of him, I'll save this among the men's accessories. Now I received this lovely little gold metal frame as a gift from my precious doll, Mary Ellen. But I wanted to make the gold a little bit deeper and richer, so I consider this layer of gold rub and buff as a foundation layer before I do the other things to age and enhance it, because I really want to bring out this beautiful design on it. But for now, I think this is a really good start. Now I had this lovely decorative piece. Now to me it looks like something that should be a centerpiece, and I decided to use my tester's gold rather than the rub and buff because of all the small spaces, and also because it was kind of a copper color, which I didn't think would really go with my time period. But I see it as a beautiful everyday centerpiece or something that I could make really festive for Christmas time. Now, this was just a simple wooden hat stand, and it was really cute, very lovely, but it was a natural wood color. I thought it would look nice with a deeper stain on it to make it look richer with a deeper patina. That makes it look a little bit more aged. Now, these are some lovely waste baskets given to me by one of my precious dolls, Susan V. Now, there was a video when I received these, and I will leave a link in the description. And I really like them. They're beautiful. They're made out of those plastic fans. And I think the construction is absolutely genius. I've seen a lot of things done with those little fans, but never a waste basket. So this was perfect. But I painted it black to look more vintage because I think the white made it look a little bit modern. So I needed it to blend into the feel of my houses. And I actually may do more to it, but I think this black base is a good foundation. So dolls, I have this lovely floral arrangement that was among the things that came with the Aunt Shirley Dollhouse collection. And I thought it was a really lovely centerpiece. The setting is inside of a lovely bowl, and the flowers are made onto a wire so you kind of can arrange them the way you want. But I thought they could stand a little brightening, so I added a little more yellow paint to the yellow flowers to make them look a little bit more vibrant, because over time sometimes things fade. And the other flowers were white, and I thought it would be nice if they were pink. So I just dabbed on some watered down acrylic paint. And after I brightened up the flowers, I thought the leaves could use a little help as well. And just like that, freshly picked spring flowers. Now this lovely set of ping pong paddles and a ball, this was a gift from my precious doll Claire. And they really didn't need anything. I just wanted them to look like they had been played with. Now I used acrylic paint and alcohol to do like a light wash so that the paint would dry really quickly, because the alcohol evaporates really nicely, so it leaves kind of a leftover stain rather than being wet and runny. And after I added the stain to the front of the paddles with the texture, I went on to paint the back of the paddles so the children can hit the ball with both sides. So now let me show you what I did to these lovely books. Now these were a gift to me as well, and they're really nice books, very simple and easy to enhance. And all I did was use the book covers that were intended for a smaller book, and I just cut the front cover off and glued it to the surface of my book. And even though this is such a simple change, and it's something that you can do to a lot of books really quickly to just really heighten their look and make them look a lot more interesting. Now you can definitely play with the borders and how you apply the combinations of colors with the covers. Now this was another gift by one of my precious dolls, Claire, and I thought it was so adorable, and she said she made it specifically for the children and new babies in the rooming house, and she left it plain so that I could finish it the way I wanted. So I'm somewhat partial to dark stain, so I stained the base of the little shelf, being careful not to get any on the little teddy bears. And my vision for it was to add brackets and add an additional shelf just below it. So I'm going to allow this to dry and then I'll show you what's next. Now, dolls, this is one of my little burlap baskets that I made in a previous video, and I will leave a link in the description. Now, this one has already been stained and it's dry, and I just wanted it to be like a little knitting basket. Now, this was actually a portion of a gift from one of my precious dolls, Teresa V. And it's a lovely bundle of assorted yarn balls in a variety of colors and sizes. So I just tried to arrange them in a natural way in the basket to give the impression that they're in use. But what really makes this super special is that she included a tiny crocheted project already started and on the knitting needles. Isn't this adorable? Now, dolls, I probably know how to do 2 knit stitches, but I've never done anything this tiny. And look at the knitting needles. Aren't they precious? But I think something like this will look lovely sitting next to Granny's chair. This is absolutely one of those gifts or projects that makes you want to just break out and play. So let me just tuck this in here neatly so it'll look like the project is in process, so that when I set it aside, now I'm not going to glue any of these pieces because I may want to arrange them differently at a later date. But for now, I think this is really cute. Now, dolls, this lovely little shelf was something I got in a bundle of things from my precious doll, Carol. And although I really love it and I think it's arranged nicely, there's some little spaces on there that I think some pieces that I already have will fit nicely. So in this frame, I'm just playing around with my ideas and the items that I wanted to add just to see how everything would fit. Now, when you think about size, you have to think about height, you have to think about how deep the little shelf is, and how things will fit in the arrangement with the items that are already on the shelf. So I'm more or less leaving this here as an example of things that you can do to things that are already previously created or things that you buy that are mass produced that you want to enhance or change or make them your very own. Take a little time and use the things that you currently have to customize your pieces to fit into your settings. Now you have to pay attention to proportions because sometimes the things that you have in your mind may not necessarily work, but just relax. There is no right or wrong way. Allow yourself to play because your imagination will blossom there. And you can see here, after I played a little while, I found a combination I really liked. And then I went on to add the glue. And I started to place the items in arrangements or combinations that I thought would look the best. It even made me pull out some other things I had to see how they would fit. Now, this was a little jar that I made out of some resin and glued a button to the top. So I thought it would look like a jar of preserves or something on that top shelf. And I also had a bottle that looked like maybe it was some brandy and a little book. And then another bottle of something that I made a long time ago that was always seemed to be too small to put anywhere, but it fit perfect on this shelf. Now in this frame you can see I'm trying to place the little jar of preserves, but the bottom of the jar is a little bit too big for that bottom shelf. So I had to move it and I thought it looked better on the top shelf. It didn't look so scrunched up. And after adding the glue, I cleaned up where it scrunched out and then I put the little teeny white bottle on top of the book. Now I know the shelf is starting to look a little full, but that's how my shelves look in my house. And it always seems to be room for one more thing. So I found a little bead that I had with a little ball on top that looked like a bottle. And this time I had to use my precision tweezers to get it in there nice and neat and straight on top of the glue. But I really liked the combination. Now, dolls, this next project is a little teapot, and it's actually a strawberry shortcake teapot. If anybody remembers strawberry shortcake, let me know in the comments. But it was really, really cute, but it definitely looked like a toy, which it actually was created to be a toy, but I'm going to turn it into a miniature. So after covering all of the red and green with the linen colored paint, I allowed it to dry before I went any further. Now, this was another lovely little item that I got in a gift bundle, and I really have plans to fill it with food when I do my food series, but I figured I would go ahead and paint it more of an industrial metal color. Now, I had considered at one point at trying to make it cast iron like black, but I thought the metal looked good. Now, I am actually using my Tester's model paint. When I was a little girl, my daddy always used it to paint his model cars. So anytime I have an opportunity to use testers, I do because it reminds me of him. Now it really looks great for giving things an enameled look, but you definitely have to be careful and make sure you allow it to dry overnight before handling it because it stays damp or wet a really long time. And while I already was at it with the silver paint, I had this little mixer that I actually found at Hobby Lobby. I thought it was so cute. But to me, the bright red color made it look a little bit too modern, so I covered it with the silver paint, and it was really great because it covered in one coat. Now, I'm probably going to add a cord and do some other little detailing on it later, but I think this nice coat of silver paint made it look a lot more vintage, which is a good foundation for my plans for it later on. Now, these are some more little gift packages that were given to me. Now, these are mass produced and they are absolutely adorable. And I'm just going to enhance these a little bit. Now, I will leave a link in the description of how to make little mailed packages, but I'm just adding some little detailing to make it look like there are stamps and other writing or the validation on the little packages. Now, I did cut off the white string because I thought it was a little bit big. So I just pulled a few threads from my tried and true burlap and created a new binding because I think it's thinner and smaller and more in scale with the package. Now back to the little teddy bear shelf. So I decided to use those little metal brackets that I got at the estate sale a couple weeks ago to use to support the little shelf and to make room for me to add an additional shelf. So you see me here adding a sparing amount of glue, and after I added my glue, now I am using Weld bond glue to attach these metal pieces to the wood. And after I lined them up the best way I could, I went on to use my little Lego blocks to assist me in keeping everything square and straight. Now, in order to distract myself and allow that to fully dry before I tried to add the second shelf, I went on to open up a little package that I was really excited about because it's really given me inspiration for another character for the Rooming House Dollhouse community. Now, it's a little artist set and it's got all the little tubes of paint. It's got a section where you can put the little palette. So I wanted to rough it up a little bit, so I sanded it so everything wouldn't be so sharp and new looking. And then I added a little stain again to make it look a little bit more used and worn and more natural because sometimes unstained wood, particularly in vintage scenes and settings, it just looks too bright and clean. And then I scuffed up and sanded the little palette with the paint on it as well. And then I went on to enhance the little paint dots to make it look as though someone was actually using the paint rather than leave them as perfect little circles. Because as I would imagine, if someone's in the middle of creating a masterpiece, things would get a little messy. And after I made the palette look used, I went on to add a little bit of paint and a few little splatters and spills to the actual carrying case. Now, I didn't try to overdo it with messing up the outside of the case because this artist is not wasteful, but I did want to make sure that it looked like it had been handled by paint-covered hands. So let me set this aside and show you what else I did. So dolls, I had this adorable little tray of fruit that was gifted to me, which I can just see easily in the middle of a breakfast room table. But it just needed a few bits of detail added to the fruit to make it look a little bit more realistic. The colors are beautiful, but I thought a little shading would help. So I just added a little brown to the pear and the banana and a little reddish color to the apple. I really didn't need to do much, but it was just more of adding shading and bits of brown to parts of some of the fruit to indicate ripening. And in addition to the brown acrylic paint, I did use some red chalk pastel. Now getting back to this little teddy bear shelf. So I dug through my bag of what are you keeping that for and found a little piece of wood that was exact width that would fit right between those two brackets. And I did add a little stain to it. And I did have to be a little careful because I was staining this at a different time than I did the other one. And so I didn't want to make it too dark where they wouldn't match. And then I added a little bit of glue and put it between the two brackets just below the top bracket. And I thought that was kind of cute. Now that lower shelf is perfect for a few books and small toys. Now, in addition to the shelf, she included some lovely children's books. And although they're brand new, I just want to age them a little bit by toning down the bright edges of the books. And I'm just using a permanent marker to go along those lines to tone down the edges. Now that I'm done with that, let me add these adorable little books to the shelf. Look at that. I love the colors on them because they're colorful, but it's like vintage shades. So let me tuck them in between the little teddy bears and see how they fit. Yeah, that's cute. And I kind of want to make them look shoved up there as if the children did it. So let's look at everything else. And here's the little package with the burlap twine and all ready to be delivered. So a few items I didn't show in the video, but I want you to see the finished product. And this is a little chair set for the children that I added stain to and sanded so everything will be smooth on the edges so the children won't get splinters. And here are the spring flowers, and I did paint the pot so that it would look like terracotta. So dolls, even if you don't make your own miniatures, I just want you to know that you can add to and enhance miniatures that are mass produced or even things that you buy or that are given to you to make them uniquely yours. Now there's my beautiful gold centerpiece, and here's my lovely tray of fruit that I added shading to. And also my waste baskets. I just rubbed a little rubbing buff on top of the black paint. I think that added a nice metallic quality. And here's a lovely bouquet of roses I was given, and I just painted the vase a cream color to make it look like porcelain. And I also added a little rubbing buff to the handle. Oh, and I don't want to forget the little strawberry shortcake pot. I painted it cream, added some gold studs and some gold rubbing buff. And don't forget my gold frame. And here's my little artist case. I did end up adding a handle and some buckles to keep it closed. And I think that looks a lot more realistic. And my hat stand, I got a little hat to put on it. Now here's a little mixer that I painted silver and added black accent for detail. Now dolls, if you've enjoyed this video today, definitely let me know in the comments, and always look for me on Mondays and Wednesdays after 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm still catching up with my responses on my comments, so I do appreciate your patience. And I'm looking forward to seeing you all on the next episode of Little Gretchen's Workshop. Bye-bye now, dolls.